Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel across burning sands, beneath skies so bright they almost sting your eyes, to discover a world where ancient Persians somehow, against all odds, kept ice cream cold in the desert. You are standing in the middle of an arid plain, dust swirling at your feet with mountains looming purple in the distance. The sun pounds mercilessly on your back. You squint toward a small settlement, and there it is, a peculiar domed structure rising from the earth, shimmering with heat waves. Inside, ice. Real, solid ice. And not just ice. Frozen desserts infused with rose water, saffron, and the sweet taste of ingenuity. Of course, you probably will not survive this desert without a hat, a fan, and about 12 liters of water. But since you are safely tucked in bed, instead, you are about to enjoy this ancient tale from the comfort of your pillow. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are listening from. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge toward that odd dome, each step kicking up fine dust. The structure ahead is called a yakhchāl, which translates literally to ice pit. It seems impossible. How could anyone store ice here? You glance at the thermometer in your imaginary backpack, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, ice awaits you inside. It is a paradox, like finding a snowball on a barbecue grill. Historians still argue whether the first Persians who built yakhchāls were inspired by natural caves or by imported ideas from distant lands. What we do know is that these structures date back over 2,000 years to the Achaemenid Empire and flourished especially during the later Safavid period. You duck inside. Instantly, the air cools. Your skin prickles. The thick mud brick walls block the sun's fury, and the temperature drops astonishingly as you descend. There it is, a mound of ice, glistening under the faint light filtering through a high vent. You brush frost from the surface. Beneath it lies a layer of straw insulation, keeping the precious cargo intact for months, even through the height of summer. You pause, savoring the improbable chill. This is not just a place for ice. It is a vault for one of Persia's most delightful creations, frozen desserts. And yes, there was a kind of ice cream long before electric freezers. In fact, by 400 BCE, the Persians were crafting an early version of what you might call sorbet. Imagine you lift a shallow brass dish from the ice. Inside is falude, thin rice noodles bathed in syrupy rosewater, lightly frozen. You take a tentative bite. The floral aroma dances across your palate, cold and sweet against the desert heat. Now you understand why ancient nobles prized these frozen luxuries. Outside, the stars begin to emerge. You step back into the desert night, where temperatures can plummet. This nightly freeze was part of the magic. Ingenious Persian engineers learned to harness it, creating shallow ponds outside their yakhchāls. During winter nights, when desert temperatures dipped below freezing, they spread thin sheets of water across stone beds. By dawn, a fragile crust of ice would form, Workers rose early to harvest these precious layers, stacking them inside the domes. But before you can dive deeper, a local elder beckons you closer. "Come," he says with a twinkle. "Let me show you how we outsmarted the sun." You follow him beneath the dome, listening as he explains the science woven into every brick. The mud used in these structures was not ordinary clay. It was mixed with sand, ash, egg whites, goat hair, and lime, a blend that created a breathable, insulating material. This porous skin allowed heat and moisture to escape, while keeping cool air trapped inside. You run your hand along the wall. It is cool to the touch. The elder grins. "It breathes," he says, "just like you and me." Of course, historians still debate whether such techniques spread from Persia to other ancient cultures, or whether parallel innovations sprang up independently. What is clear is that Persian architects refined the process to an art. Suddenly, a gust of wind whooshes through a hidden shaft above. You look up. Windcatchers, ingenious towers called badgers, crown many yakhchāls, channeling desert breezes downward. These air currents create a natural refrigeration effect, whisking warm air out and pulling cooler air in. As you listen, the elder chuckles softly. "We did not need electricity," he says, "just patience and a little cleverness." Outside, you notice another curious feature: underground channels lined with stone. These are qanats, ancient Persian aqueducts that carried fresh water from distant mountains. Without them, the yakhchāl could not function. The ice-making process depended on a reliable water source, and the qanats provided it year-round. You sit beside the elder, sipping cold rosewater. Above you, stars wheel in the black velvet sky. The desert hums softly, vast and timeless. Then, almost conspiratorially, the elder leans in. "There is more to ice than you know," he whispers. "It was not only for dessert. It was for royalty, for healing, for celebration." You lean forward, curiosity sparked. "Tell me more," you say. And so, beneath that ancient dome, your journey into the secret world of Persian ice begins to unfold. You sit cross-legged beside the elder as the cool air of the yakhchāl brushes your skin. His eyes gleam with the kind of pride only a true craftsman holds. "Let me show you how this marvel was born," he says, rising slowly and gesturing for you to follow. You stand, brushing dust from your clothes, and trail him back outside beneath a starlit sky. Now that you know the yakhchāl holds ice, you examine its peculiar form with fresh eyes. The towering dome looms above you like an earthen spaceship, smooth and seamless against the heavens. Its shape is no accident. The ancient Persians designed it with exacting purpose, a fusion of geometry and climate mastery. At its heart, the yakhchāl is a monumental mud brick cone, sometimes soaring over 15 meters tall. The outer walls can be up to 2 meters thick at the base, gradually thinning toward the apex. You circle it slowly, marveling at its silent grandeur. The elder's voice cuts through the hush. "We build with the earth," he explains. "Clay, sand, ash, goat hair, and lime. We mix them to breathe and endure." You kneel to inspect the bricks. They are massive, hand-molded. Their surface is rough, but compact. The mixture is called sarouj, a composite as clever as it is simple. Sarouj is not just durable, it is water-resistant and insulating, a vital combination in a land where summer temperatures regularly top 40 degrees Celsius. You touch the wall again. Despite the night's chill, it retains a pleasant coolness. The elder nods knowingly. It is alive, he says. When the sun heats it, the wall exhales. When the air cools, it inhales. Historians still argue whether this specific construction method was entirely Persian in origin, or if influences drifted along Silk Road trade routes from Egypt, India, or even China. Regardless, the Persians mastered it, elevating their ice houses into architectural icons. You step back to admire the dome's curve. The parabolic shape is key. It minimizes surface area exposed to the sun while maximizing structural strength. Any rain, rare as it may be, runs harmlessly down the smooth slope. And most importantly, the interior stays consistently cool. Your guide leads you around to the north side, where a thick wall casts deep shadow even at midday. Here lies the entrance, low, narrow, and shaded to trap cool air. Step carefully, the elder warns as you duck inside once more. Descending into the dim chamber, you notice another clever feature. The floor is sunken several meters below ground level. The subterranean depth helps stabilize the temperature, taking advantage of the Earth's natural insulation. A small ladder leans against the ice mound, and the elder beckons. You climb gingerly, peering at the layering beneath the straw. Each layer tells a story. Ice harvested in winter, stacked meticulously, insulated with plant fibers to slow melting. The topmost layer still gleams under the faint light. But how did they gather enough ice to fill such a cavernous vault? The elder smiles at your unspoken question. Patience, he says, and cold nights. Outside the yakhchāl, the Persians built shallow pools lined with stone or packed earth. During the coldest months, typically December through February, they would flood these pools after sunset. The desert, contrary to its sweltering daytime reputation, can grow bitingly cold at night, especially beneath clear skies. Temperatures often dropped below freezing. As you imagine the scene, the elder paints it with words. Workers huddled in cloaks, watching for the first brittle crust of ice to form. Before dawn, they would carefully lift the ice sheets, stacking them layer by fragile layer. It was labor-intensive, a race against the morning sun. You might wonder, why not build deeper pools for thicker ice? The answer lies in simple physics. Thin sheets freeze faster and are easier to handle. By layering many such sheets within the yakhchāl, the Persians ensured an even, dense mass that would last well into the blazing summer. Historians still debate whether these ice ponds originated solely from Persian innovation, or if they adapted methods seen elsewhere. Some scholars point to early Chinese ice harvesting practices. Others cite similar techniques in Egypt and the Indian subcontinent. But the Persian system was unique in its integration of architecture and climate strategy. Returning inside, you glance upward at the badger, the windcatcher. High above, narrow vents angle strategically to channel prevailing winds. The elder explains, "We turn the wind into our servant. The breeze cools as it spirals downward, enhancing the natural convection currents within the dome. Warm air escapes through secondary vents, while cooler air settles around the ice. You can feel it now, a subtle, soothing draft caressing your face." Suddenly, the elder laughs softly. "In the old days, some called it magic," he says, "but it is only nature if you understand her." You smile, sensing the blend of science and reverence that shaped this tradition. Here in the yakhchāl, ancient Persians achieved what seems impossible even today: sustainable refrigeration without a single watt of electricity. As dawn's first light seeps through the high vent, you step back into the waking desert. The air is crisp, the stars fading. Your mind reels with the elegance of this forgotten art, and your journey is just beginning. The elder gestures toward the distant hills. "Come," he says. "Now you must see how we crafted our icy delights." You nod, curiosity burning brighter than the rising sun. You follow the elder away from the towering yakhchāl, your breath puffing faintly in the crisp dawn air. The desert is waking. A pale orange rim crowns the distant mountains. As you walk, your thoughts linger on that ice, solid, gleaming, and ancient. But how did it survive months of unrelenting heat, sealed inside a mud brick dome? The elder seems to sense your question. He pauses, kneels, and scoops up a handful of dusty earth. "This," he says, letting the grain slip through his fingers, "is the key." You blink. "Dirt," he smiles. "Mixed with care, it becomes the skin of the yakhchāl and the breath of the ice." Together you approach a small workshop near the village edge. Inside, young apprentices stir great vats of clay and sand, adding curious ingredients to the mix. Egg whites froth atop one vat. Goat hair is bundled nearby. Lime dust hangs in the air like powdered moonlight. "This is sarouj," the elder explains again, "a living material. The mixture they craft is thick and sticky, soon to be spread over bricks that have baked in the sun for weeks." You watch as they mold bricks with calloused hands, stacking them in neat rows. The secret lies not only in the recipe, but in how the bricks are used. The walls of a yakhchāl are built with deliberate gaps, not entirely solid, an ancient form of breathability. As the elder leads you back toward another yakhchāl under construction, you run your fingers along an unfinished wall. You can feel tiny pores beneath the surface. These allow moisture within the dome to evaporate outward, while preventing external heat from seeping in a delicate balance. "Too tight," the elder says, "and the ice will suffocate. Too loose, and the sun will steal it." You chuckle softly. Nature, once again, plays by its own rules. Historians still argue whether the Persians consciously understood the exact thermodynamics involved, or whether centuries of trial and error simply led them to perfect the method. Either way, the results speak for themselves. You step inside the half-finished dome. It is dim, cool, and cavernous. Overhead, you see the signature parabolic curve, drawing your eye upward to the vent where windcatchers will soon be fitted. The elder explains how workers layer each row of bricks slightly inward, creating that graceful curve by eye and instinct alone. No blueprints, no calculators. You take a slow breath. Even unfinished, the space feels serene, almost sacred. Outside again, the sun now higher, you squint toward the horizon. But what about summer? You ask. How does the ice not melt away? The elder chuckles. Patience. There is more to learn. He leads you back to the ice storage chamber you visited earlier. This time, you notice details you missed before. Beneath the layers of ice lies straw, not random debris, but carefully selected, long-stemmed varieties known for their insulating properties. Workers would gather great bundles of it during harvest season, drying it under the sun. Layer by layer, the ice was sandwiched with this straw, which trapped cool air and slowed melting. It also allowed any meltwater to drain downward rather than pooling and hastening the thaw. Simple, but ingenious. You crouch beside a drainage channel carved into the floor, angled, smooth, and perfectly aligned. Meltwater flowed out through underground pipes, keeping the remaining ice dry and stable. And here comes the quirky tidbit for today. It was not uncommon for Persian ice workers to add certain herbs and even crushed seashells between ice layers, believing they offered mystical protection against spoilage. Whether this worked or not is, well, let us just say historians still argue whether those additions had any real effect or were more ritual than science. As you stand again, the elder places a hand on your shoulder. You have seen how we build and protect the ice, he says. Now you must taste why we do it. You follow him to a shaded courtyard where brass bowls glisten atop a stone table. The air here is thick with floral notes, rosewater, saffron, and something citrusy. You lean closer. Thin noodles rest beneath a delicate blanket of crushed ice. This is faluda, one of Persia's oldest frozen treats. With a wooden spoon, you take a small bite. The ice crunches softly between your teeth. The noodles, vermicelli made from rice flour, add a tender chew. The rosewater floods your senses, sweet and fragrant, while a hint of lime cuts through the richness. You glance at the elder, wide-eyed. He grins. Now you understand. Indeed, ancient Persians did not merely preserve ice for preservation's sake. They transformed it into culinary art. Faluda is thought to date back at least 2 millennia, making it one of the earliest known frozen desserts, long before mechanical refrigeration or modern ice cream. Persians were crafting edibles snow-laced with the flavors of paradise. The elder pours syrup over another bowl, watching as it trickles and glistens. Each house had its own recipe, he says. Some added mint, others saffron, even the petals of violets. Historians still debate exactly when faluda first emerged. Some claim the Achaemenids already enjoyed versions of it. Others argue it became popular during the later Sassanid and early Islamic periods. Regardless, it remains beloved in Iran to this day. As you savor another bite, the sun now high overhead, you marvel at how something so fleeting, ice, became the foundation for a culinary legacy. And there is more to explore. The elder wipes his hands and rises. Now, he says with a mischievous smile, shall we see how royalty enjoyed their ice? You nod eagerly. ready for the next chapter in this unlikely tale of desert ice. You rise from the shaded courtyard, still savoring the lingering sweetness of Faluda. The elder's invitation stirs your curiosity. How did royalty, with their lavish tastes and endless appetites, indulge in frozen delights in a land where water itself was precious? Come, the elder says, leading you toward the heart of the ancient city. To understand, you must see how ice became more than ice. It became a symbol. As you walk through dusty alleyways lined with sun-bleached walls, the elder begins his tale. In the time of the Achaemenid kings, he says, ice was a luxury beyond price. To serve it at a royal banquet was to command nature itself. You imagine it. Vast halls adorned with gold and lapis, the scent of frankincense in the air. At the center of the table, bowls of glittering ice and frozen confections, dazzling courtiers and foreign dignitaries alike. Historians still argue whether Persian royalty first encountered frozen desserts through their own traditions or through contact with neighboring civilizations. Some suggest the Greeks marveled at Persian ice practices during Alexander's conquests. Others believe earlier Mesopotamian influences played a role. What is clear is that by the height of the Persian Empire, ice had become a royal obsession. Special yakhchāls were reserved solely for the court's use, staffed by skilled workers known as yakhchāl, literally ice keepers. You arrive at a crumbling yet magnificent estate, once the residence of a high-ranking noble. The elder gestures toward a sunken courtyard. At its center lies a small, private yakhchāl, its dome now weathered but still standing. This one, he says, served a single family. Imagine what the great king himself commanded. You picture vast royal complexes with entire wings dedicated to storing and serving ice. Couriers on swift horses would deliver freshly frozen delicacies to distant outposts, ensuring even provincial governors could partake in this frozen luxury. And what did they enjoy? The elder's eyes twinkle. Ah, more than you might guess. Beyond Faluda, royal kitchens prepared elaborate chilled drinks called sharbat, fruit syrups mixed with snow or crushed ice. Pomegranate, cherry, quince, and mulberry were popular flavors, often spiked with aromatic herbs or a dash of rosewater. You sip an imaginary sharbat, the coldness seeping through your senses. In a land of furnace winds, such a drink must have seemed almost magical. But there is more. The elder recounts how Persian chefs began experimenting with custard-like bases, blending milk, cream, and honey with snow to create early versions of frozen dairy treats. Some scholars argue that this practice, milk-based frozen desserts, may have influenced later ice cream traditions across the Middle East and even into Europe via Arab traders. Of course, historians still debate whether the Persian Bastani Sanati, a saffron and rose ice cream with pistachios, has a direct lineage from these ancient creations, or if it evolved later during the Qajar era. Either way, its roots run deep. You stroll through the courtyard, imagining court musicians playing softly as servants carry silver bowls of ice. Foreign ambassadors, unused to such wonders, surely gaped in astonishment. Yet the elder reminds you, ice was not merely for show. It played roles both political and practical. Royal physicians prescribed cold drinks and ice poultices to treat fevers and digestive ailments. On hot days, even the Shah himself might retreat to a shaded pavilion, cooled by ice blocks strategically placed to create a refreshing microclimate. Quirky tidbit time. In some royal banquets, entire fountains of chilled sharbat were engineered, flowing over sculpted ice forms, a spectacle as much as a refreshment. Whether this was an actual common practice or the product of poetic exaggeration, well, historians still argue about that one. As you pause beneath a fig tree, the elder leans on his cane. "You see," he says, "to serve ice was to command the impossible. It whispered of power, wealth, and wisdom. You reflect on that. In a desert empire, to bring winter into summer was a triumph of engineering and artistry. No wonder Persian monarchs embraced it so fervently." The elder beckons once more. "Now," he says, "you must see how we borrowed the wind itself." You follow him into the brightening day, eager to uncover the next secret of this ancient cold craft. The elder strides ahead with surprising energy for one who seems to know so many centuries-old secrets. You hurry after him, weaving through narrow lanes that twist like desert serpents. The heat is rising already, waves shimmering off stone walls. Yet the elder seems unbothered, as if wrapped in an invisible breeze. You round a corner, and there it is, a slender tower rising from the roof of a merchant's house, its top open to the sky, its sides laced with narrow slits. A badger or windcatcher. This, the elder says, is how we called the wind. You tilt your head. To modern eyes, it looks like an architectural flourish, perhaps even a bell tower. But as you stand beneath it, a gentle, cool draft brushes your skin. Impossible in this baking alley. The elder smiles knowingly. It is simple. Hot air rises. Cool air sinks. We guide it. You follow him up a narrow staircase inside the house. At the top, you stand beneath the tower. Through its angled slits, the desert wind whispers in. The tower's internal veins direct the airflow downward, funneling it through the house below. Combined with the thick mud brick walls and shaded courtyards, this wind-driven ventilation kept homes astonishingly cool, even during the fiercest heat waves. And when used in conjunction with a yakhchāl, it created a refrigeration system that required no fuel, no moving parts, just the patience to read the sky and build accordingly. Historians still argue whether badgers first arose in Persia, or if they evolved through a blending of Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Persian traditions. What is certain is that by the early Islamic period, they were an integral part of Persian architecture. You descend again to street level, where the elder pauses before an older yakhchāl, its windcatchers still intact. "Watch," he says. You stand silently. Soon enough, a gust of wind funnels through the tower, spiraling downward into the ice chamber. The elder holds a ribbon near the vent. It flutters and streams inward. The warm air above escapes through side vents, while the cool breeze settles around the ice. This constant airflow reduced humidity, prevented condensation, and maintained stable temperatures inside. Even on the hottest days, ice stored here could last well into late autumn. Now for today's quirky tidbit. Some ancient Persians believed that certain chants or musical tones could attract cooler winds through the badger. While no evidence supports the physics of this, the practice persisted in some villages well into the modern era. You imagine a lone elder standing beneath the tower, humming an ancient melody to coax the breeze. The elder laughs when you mention it. Perhaps it was not the chant, but the patience that brought the wind. You grin. Fair enough. As you move onward, the elder explains that wealthy homes often combined multiple badgers, oriented to catch seasonal winds from different directions. Skilled architects even tune the angle and depth of the tower's slits to optimize airflow. In some cities, entire neighborhoods align their rooftops to maximize collective cooling. Modern architects have begun to rediscover this wisdom. Passive cooling techniques, inspired by Persian badgers, are now incorporated into green building designs worldwide. Who needs an energy-guzzling AC when the wind itself can cool your home? Of course, historians still debate just how much ancient Persians understood about fluid dynamics versus relying on empirical observation. Either way, the result was the same: an elegant, sustainable solution to an unforgiving climate. The elder gestures for you to sit beneath a shaded awning. The breeze from the nearby badger caresses your face. You close your eyes. The heat recedes, replaced by a gentle, almost aquatic coolness. Now, the elder says softly, imagine this power applied to entire cities. Indeed, ancient Persian cities like Yazd were masterpieces of climate-responsive design. Networks of qanats, underground aqueducts, thick-walled homes, shaded streets, and countless badgers transformed arid landscapes into habitable oases. Ice houses were simply the crown jewel of this architectural symphony. You sip cool water from a clay jug. The elder watches you with a faint smile. We knew the desert's secret, he says. Do not fight it. Work with it. You nod, understanding now why Persian ice was more than a culinary feat. It was an expression of harmony with nature. The elder rises. There is more, he says. Water flows where no river runs. Intrigued, you follow once again, ready to uncover the next ingenious thread in this ancient tapestry. You follow the elder along a dusty path, the sun now high and bright. The land around you looks parched, low scrub, cracked earth, and distant hills shimmering like molten gold. And yet, the elder walks with the calm assurance of one who knows where to find water in the driest of places. Before long, you come upon a low, stone-lined opening in the earth, like the mouth of some ancient beast. Cool air wafts from within, carrying the scent of damp stone and earth. The elder stops beside it. This, he says, is a qanat, our river beneath the sand. You peer into the shadowy tunnel. It stretches into darkness, water faintly glistening along its floor. You glance at the elder, amazed. No surface river flows here, yet water runs beneath your feet. The qanat system is one of the great engineering triumphs of ancient Persia. Invented over 2,500 years ago, it allowed communities to tap underground aquifers and transport water across vast distances without pumps or modern machinery. Here is how it works. Vertical shafts are dug at regular intervals, sometimes reaching depths of 100 meters or more. These shafts connect to a gently sloping tunnel that follows the natural gradient of the land. Gravity draws water from the aquifer, guiding it through the tunnel toward towns and farms, sometimes over distances of 50 kilometers or more. You can scarcely imagine the labor involved. The elder describes teams of qanat builders, known as muqannas, who worked in near darkness, using only oil lamps and hand tools. They measured gradients with uncanny precision, ensuring a constant, gentle flow. Historians still argue whether the original qanat concept arose independently in Persia or evolved from earlier Mesopotamian or Egyptian waterworks. What is clear is that Persian engineers perfected the system and spread it across the empire from modern-day Iran to North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and even parts of China. The elder invites you to step closer. You kneel by the opening, cupping cool water in your hands. It tastes pure, fresh as mountain snow. This water, the elder says, has traveled many days to meet you. You smile. Here in the desert, water is life, and ice is its most precious form. Now for today's quirky tidbit. In some regions, muqannas were buried standing upright when they died, to symbolize their lifelong bond with the vertical shafts they built. Whether this was common practice or local folklore, historians still argue about that one. You rise and wipe your hands. The elder explains how qanats enabled not only farming and drinking water, but also supported the ice trade. Without reliable year-round water, the yakhchāl system would have been impossible. During the cold months, water from qanats filled the shallow ice ponds. In summer, it flowed beneath homes and courtyards, enhancing cooling systems. Clever stone channels beneath floors allowed cool water to circulate, creating an early form of radiant cooling. Even today, some Persian cities continue to use ancient qanats alongside modern infrastructure, a testament to their resilience and efficiency. You glance back at the dark tunnel. It hums softly, like a subterranean heartbeat. The elder smiles. Remember this. Without the qanat, there is no ice. He leads you onward, and as you walk, you begin to see the larger picture. The Persians did not merely preserve ice. They wove it into a complete system of climate control, architecture, and water management, a delicate dance with nature. As you climb a rocky slope toward your next destination, the elder's voice floats back to you. Now, he says, you will see the night sky freeze the earth. You quicken your pace, eager for the next layer of this frozen mystery. You crest the rocky slope, the elder's silhouette sharp against the blazing sky. He pauses, letting you catch your breath. Before you lies a broad, flat expanse of packed earth, bordered by low stone walls. The elder gestures grandly. This, he says, is where the desert night becomes your ally. You step forward, the ground crunching beneath your feet. The space looks unremarkable, like an empty courtyard. But as the elder explains, this simple setup is the heart of ancient Persian ice harvesting. In winter, when the nights grow long and bitterly cold, Workers would flood shallow pools here with water drawn from the nearby qanat. The pools were only a few centimeters deep, thin enough to freeze rapidly, yet broad enough to produce large sheets of ice. The elder crouches and draws a finger through the dust. "Here," he says, tracing a rectangle. "At sunset, we fill the pool. By dawn, we harvest the ice." You imagine the scene. Under a sky ablaze with stars, cloaked workers tend the pools, eyes scanning the surface for that first glassy sheen. The desert, stripped of daytime heat, releases its stored energy into the heavens. Without cloud cover or humidity to trap warmth, temperatures plummet, sometimes by 20 degrees Celsius or more overnight. Historians still argue whether this method was purely Persian innovation or adapted from earlier practices in Egypt or Mesopotamia. Regardless, the Persians perfected it, turning the desert's extreme diurnal temperature swings into an industrial advantage. You glance at the elder. How did they know when the ice was ready? He smiles. "Experience," he says simply, "and ears. Listen." He taps his knuckles against an imaginary ice sheet. A dull, solid tone means it is thick enough. A hollow ring warns of weak spots. Skilled ice workers developed an uncanny ear for these subtle cues. And here comes today's quirky tidbit. Some records suggest that before major harvests, workers performed quiet rituals, lighting small fires at the pool's edges or singing softly to encourage a full freeze. Whether these actions had any real effect or simply calmed anxious minds is still debated by scholars. At dawn, teams would lift the ice sheets with long wooden poles, sliding them onto straw mats. The ice was then stacked in sledges or on the backs of camels for transport to the yakhchāl. You frown. Camels? Would they not melt the ice? The elder chuckles. "Ah, but we travel before the sun is strong, and the ice is wrapped in straw, thick as a quilt." Indeed, ancient Persian logistics revolved around careful timing. Ice was harvested, transported, and stored all in the coldest pre-dawn hours. By midday, workers retreated indoors, leaving the sun to blaze over an already completed task. You kneel by the dry pool bed, running your hand over the sun-baked surface. It seems miraculous that this barren space could yield life-giving ice. Yet the technique was astoundingly effective. In years of good winter freezes, enough ice could be harvested to last the entire summer, providing cooling not only for the elite, but also for merchants, artisans, and even humble villagers who saved coins for a rare taste of cold. And here is another open scholarly debate. Just how widespread was public access to this ice? Some sources suggest it remained largely a luxury for the wealthy. Others argue that bustling ice markets thrived even in smaller towns, particularly during festivals and religious holidays. The truth, as always, likely varied by time and place. The elder stands and brushes dust from his robe. "Now you see," he says. "The desert gives, if you know how to ask." You nod, the ingenuity of it all settling into your bones. Ice from starlight, drawn from the breath of the earth and the patience of human hands. As you follow him back down the slope, the elder's voice carries on the wind. "Next, You will learn how the merchants made ice their fortune. Intrigued, you quicken your steps, ready to discover the bustling trade that turned frozen water into a shimmering economy. You descend the slope with the elder, your mind spinning with images of starlit ice pools and desert winds whispering through ancient towers. But there is another part of this story, one driven not by necessity or royal whim, but by commerce. Come, the elder says, eyes twinkling. Let us visit the merchants who turned ice into gold. You enter the bustling heart of an ancient Persian bazaar. The narrow streets pulse with life, vendors calling out their wares, the scent of saffron and cumin thick in the air, and woven carpets cascading from doorways like waterfalls of color. Amid the clamor, men in long robes hurry past, carts laden with straw-wrapped bundles. Ice, yes, even here, where sunbeams slice through dust motes, ice is bought and sold like silk or spices. The elder gestures toward a shaded stall where a merchant unwraps a block of glistening ice, hacking it into smaller chunks for eager customers. Coins clink into his palm. You watch, fascinated. How had a substance as fleeting as frozen water become so central to daily life and so profitable? The elder explains. Once ice belonged to kings, but the merchants I saw opportunity. As yakhchāl construction spread beyond royal estates, entrepreneurial minds realized they could harvest and store excess ice, then sell it in the heat of summer when demand and prices soared. By the early Islamic period, well-organized ice markets had emerged in many Persian cities. Ice merchants formed guilds, establishing trade routes and storage agreements with yakhchāl owners. Some wealthy families even sponsored the construction of public yakhchāls in exchange for a share of the ice profits. Historians still argue whether the ice trade was taxed heavily by local rulers or allowed to flourish relatively freely. In some cities, records suggest strict regulation. In others, it seems to have been a lively, open market. And the customers came. Shopkeepers bought ice to cool drinks and preserve perishable goods. Physicians used it to treat fevers. Nobles ordered elaborate desserts and chilled wines for summer banquets. Even ordinary folk might splurge on a few cooling slivers during a festival. You pause before another stall, where a young boy fans a tray of sharbat bottles nestled in crushed ice. The elder hands you one, a blend of sour cherry and rose water. The first sip is electric, cold, and fragrant, a miracle in this sweltering air. Quirky tidbit of the day. In some cities, enterprising street vendors would sculpt small ice figurines, birds, flowers, even mythical creatures, and sell them to delighted children. Whether this was a widespread practice or a poetic flourish from travelers' accounts, well, historians still argue about that. You sip your sharbat slowly, watching the market hum around you. Ice has transformed from a royal indulgence into a democratic delight, accessible to many. But the trade was not without risks. Ice merchants faced unpredictable winters. Poor freezes meant lean summers. Transport was treacherous. Blocks had to be moved swiftly and skillfully to minimize melting. and rivalries between merchant guilds could spark fierce competition, even sabotage. You glance at the elder. How did they keep it from melting? He smiles. Timing, skill, and cunning. Merchants used insulated carts lined with straw and leather. Some built way stations, cool storage pits along trade routes, where ice could be briefly sheltered from the sun. Journeys were carefully planned for cooler parts of the day or night. And here is another open debate. Just how far could Persian ice realistically be transported? Some sources claim it reached cities hundreds of kilometers from its source. Skeptical historians argue that such journeys would have resulted in substantial loss, limiting profitability. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, with skilled merchants achieving impressive, but not magical, ranges. The elder finishes his sharbat and sets the empty bottle aside. Now, he says softly, you must see how ice became a gift to the gods. You blink. Ice, as an offering? With a knowing smile, the elder leads you away from the bustling bazaar, deeper into the city's ancient heart. Another layer of this shimmering story awaits. You follow the elder deeper into the winding streets, leaving behind the din of the bazaar. The air grows quieter, cooler, as high walls cast long shadows across your path. Your mind lingers on the image of merchants turning ice into fortune. How swiftly human ingenuity can transform nature's gifts into commerce. But now the elder speaks of something older, more sacred. You must understand, he says, voice low. To the ancients, ice was not only useful, it was divine. You raise an eyebrow. Divine? He nods. Imagine it. In a land where water itself is precious, ice, solid, pure, captured cold, seemed a blessing from the gods. What better gift to offer in return? You soon reach a small, time-worn temple. Its stone facade is etched with faded carvings, celestial symbols, flowing water, stylized flames. The elder gestures for you to remove your shoes, then leads you inside. The air is thick with incense. A few devotees kneel before a simple altar, on which rests an elegant silver bowl. Within it gleams a single, glistening shard of ice, melting slowly beneath the temple lamps. This, the elder whispers, is an offering to Anahita. You watch, fascinated. Anahita, the ancient Persian goddess of water, fertility, and healing, was long venerated across the empire. Her shrines often featured flowing water, and her followers believed that offerings of pure water or ice pleased her greatly. Historians still argue whether the practice of offering ice originated in royal temples or arose from local folk traditions. What is known is that by the Achaemenid period, and continuing into later dynasties, ice held a symbolic role in certain rituals. In midsummer, when the sun burned hottest, priests and lay people alike would bring precious shards of ice to Anahita's shrines. The act symbolized gratitude for life-giving water and a plea for continued abundance. You kneel quietly, watching as a young woman places another small block of ice upon the altar. The melting water trickles into a basin below, its soft drip the only sound in the hushed chamber. Now for your quirky tidbit. In some villages, It was believed that couples who offered ice together at Anahita's shrine would be blessed with cool heads in their marriage, a poetic way of wishing harmony and patience upon the union. Whether this belief was universal or local folklore, historians, as always, still argue. You sit with the elder beneath a painted frieze of flowing rivers and snowy peaks. He explains that these rituals also had a practical side. Ice offerings reinforced communal respect for water sources and the intricate systems, qanats, yakhchāls, and all that sustained life. In times of drought or political strife, shared rituals helped bind communities together, reminding them that their survival depended on cooperation, not just individual wealth. You sip cool water from a clay cup offered by an acolyte, feeling the weight of centuries pressing gently around you. And here is another open scholarly debate. How much of this reverence for ice persisted after the rise of Islam? Some argue that older rituals were quietly adapted into new religious contexts. Others claim they faded entirely. Yet even today, echoes remain in poetry, in festivals, in the way Persians still speak of ice and water with deep respect. The elder rises, motioning you to follow. As you step back into the sunlit street, the air feels heavier somehow, as if you have glimpsed a world where ice was more than a convenience, where it was a bridge between humanity and the divine. Come, he says softly. Now you will see how poetry kept these stories alive. Your curiosity stirs anew. Poetry? Ice? How could the two intertwine? Eager for answers, you walk beside him, ready to trace the shimmering thread of ice through the words of ancient Persian bards. You settle in beside the elder, the sun mellowing as afternoon drapes a golden haze over the city. The streets grow quieter now, and you find yourself near a modest building where scrolls and manuscripts lie stacked high. This is a haven for poets and scribes, keepers of memory and magic. Persians love their poetry, the elder says with a smile. And ice? It chills more than drinks. It inspires verses. You lean in, imagining poets under starry skies, crafting lines about frozen water amid deserts of sand. The elder begins to recite a few lines from the great Ferdowsi's Shahnameh, where ice and snow serve as metaphors for purity, endurance, and sometimes cruel fate. Historians still argue about how much literal ice these poets actually saw. For many, ice was a symbol, a distant, mysterious element woven into tales of northern mountains and legendary heroes. Yet for the Persian heart, the real experience of ice, its cooling bite, its fleeting beauty, found its way into everyday language and metaphor. You smile as the elder quotes a playful couplet about a beloved's cool gaze like fresh ice in midsummer. It feels modern, even cheeky, reminding you that poetic imagery is timeless. And here is today's quirky tidbit. Some Persian poets wrote entire poems in which ice speaks in the first person, lamenting its brief life, longing for the chill of night, or boasting about its power to tame fiery passions. Whether these were serious works or clever entertainments is still debated among scholars. The elder gestures to a thick manuscript, Some poems were even composed for royal ice harvest festivals, celebrating the miracle of water turned cold, the skill of artisans, and the sweetness of sharbat served on ice. You imagine crowds gathering to hear these verses, sipping chilled drinks under canopies of grapevines. The blending of art and nature, celebration and science. Poetry also preserved knowledge. Descriptions of yakhchāls, ice harvesting, and cooling techniques slipped between romantic lines, ensuring that wisdom passed down alongside beauty. You think of the earlier story, the qanat water, the frozen pools, the merchants, and how they all found echoes in verse. This blend of science, art, and daily life is the heartbeat of Persian culture. Another debate among historians centers on whether the literary prominence of ice increased during certain dynasties as court culture flourished, or if it remained a steady undercurrent through all periods. The truth, as always, is layered like the ice blocks stacked in the great ice houses. The elder closes the manuscript gently. Poetry keeps the cold alive long after the ice has melted. You nod, feeling the warmth of shared stories settle like a blanket. The day cools, and you are ready to follow the elder into the next chapter. How Persian gardens embraced ice, turning landscapes into living, breathing oases. You walk beside the elder as the golden light fades into a soft twilight, the city settling into a quiet hum. Ahead, a lush garden unfurls, an oasis of green in the desert's embrace. Persian gardens have always been famous, but today you are here to see how ice played its subtle, magical role within these carefully crafted paradises. The elder gestures to the slender channels of water weaving through the garden beds, their gentle murmur a cooling lullaby. Gardens are not just for beauty, he says. They are a sanctuary from heat, and ice is the secret guest. You follow him to a small stone pavilion where thick blocks of ice, wrapped in straw mats, rest in a sunken basin. This basin is part of an ingenious system designed to keep the air cool during blazing summer days. Historians still argue about the extent of ice use in gardens. Some argue it was a privilege limited to royal palaces, while others suggest that wealthy merchants and local governors also enjoyed this chilling luxury. The practical magic is fascinating. As the sun climbs, water from melting ice seeps into the channels, cooling the air and nourishing plants. The evaporation creates a microclimate, tempering the desert heat by several degrees. Garden visitors might feel a refreshing breeze, an invisible gift carried from melting ice and flowing water. Here is your quirky tidbit. Some accounts mention scented ice cubes, ice infused with rose petals, saffron, or lemon, that were slowly melted in garden basins, releasing fragrant aromas as well as cool air. Whether this was widespread or confined to poetic imaginations is debated by scholars. You breathe deeply, inhaling the mingled scents of jasmine and mint, feeling the cool air brush your skin. It is easy to see how these gardens became places of refuge and contemplation, where poets composed verses and lovers met under the shade of cypress trees. The elder points to a fountain shaped like a lion's head, water trickling from its mouth into a basin. Ice, he says, was part of the garden's soul. It was more than frozen water. It was life's breath caught in a crystal. The debate continues. Some historians believe that garden ice storage influenced later European traditions of water features and cooling, while others see it as a uniquely Persian innovation that faded with changing climates and technologies. As evening deepens, lanterns flicker to life along the garden paths, casting playful shadows on the walls. You imagine ancient nobles strolling here, sipping ice drinks, and enjoying the sweet relief from the desert's relentless sun. The elder's voice softens. Remember, these gardens are not just places to see, they are places to feel. Ice is the whisper beneath the leaves. You nod, savoring the coolness lingering in the air as you prepare to follow the elder to the next revelation. How Persian ice making inspired technologies far beyond their deserts. The elder leads you away from the garden's serene whispers and into a bustling workshop where artisans hammer, mold, and tinker. Here, the magic of ice is being turned into technology that would ripple beyond Persia's borders. You see, the elder says, Persian ingenuity did not stop at storing ice. It sparked inventions, machines, and methods that changed how people around the world thought about cold. You watch craftsmen working on devices that channel water, harness wind, and cool air. Among these is the windcatcher, or badger, a towering structure designed to capture desert breezes and funnel them down into cool underground chambers. Historians still argue how early these devices were used, but by the medieval period, windcatchers were widespread in Persian architecture, often paired with ice storage to create comfortable living spaces. The workshop buzzes with energy as a young inventor shows you a prototype of a water wheel powering a pump, pulling water from deep qanats to surface gardens and ice pits. This coupling of water management and cooling technology was revolutionary. Here's your quirky tidbit. One inventor experimented with hollow clay spheres filled with ice placed strategically around homes to keep interiors cold. While practical details remain fuzzy, some travelers wrote amusingly about families surrounded by mysterious ice balls, sparking curious glances from neighbors. Scholars debate whether such innovations influenced later cooling technologies in the Ottoman Empire, Mughal India, or even Renaissance Europe. The thread of influence is tantalizing, but not fully traced. The elder points toward a detailed blueprint, a precocious mix of geometry and engineering. These designs show how science and art blended in Persia. Cooling was not just comfort, it was a triumph of human creativity over harsh nature. You marvel at the intricate diagrams for yakhchāls, wind towers, and water channels, appreciating how every element worked together. It feels like watching an ancient symphony, with water and ice playing the lead instruments. As twilight deepens outside, you realize these inventions were more than machines. They were cultural symbols, embodying a profound respect for nature's cycles and limits. And that respect still echoes in modern sustainable design, inspiring architects seeking harmony between human needs and the environment. The elder smiles. From ice in the desert to cooling cities of today, Persian innovation still whispers in the breeze. You breathe in the mingled scent of metal, clay, and old wood, feeling connected to a long line of creators who dared to turn heat into coolness. With a gentle nod, the elder invites you to rest. Ahead lies the story of how Persian ice and cooling traditions traveled far beyond their desert origins, changing worlds you never expected. You step out of the workshop, the cool evening air brushing against your skin, as the elder guides you along ancient trade routes stretching beyond Persia's borders. You begin to grasp how far the influence of Persian ice making and cooling technology reached, like a secret river flowing beneath the surface of history. Merchants and travelers carried more than silk and spices. They carried ideas, inventions, and stories of how to tame the sun's relentless fury with ice and wind. The elder tells you how Persian knowledge of yakhchāls and qanats spread westward, reaching the Arab world during the Islamic Golden Age. Cities like Baghdad and Damascus began to incorporate these cooling methods, adapting them to local landscapes and needs. Historians still argue whether the exact designs were imported wholesale or modified from earlier traditions. Some evidence suggests a fascinating blend of Persian, Greek, and Roman engineering converged in these hubs. Further east, Persian cooling technology found its way into India, where Mughal rulers built elaborate bowless stepwells and ice houses. You imagine these grand structures, their cool shadows offering relief to emperors and poets alike. A quirky tidbit emerges. In the 17th century, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan reportedly requested ice to be delivered from the Himalayas to his summer palace in Agra, a journey of hundreds of kilometers. Whether the ice arrived intact or melted into legend is part of the ongoing debate among historians. The elder's voice softens as he recounts stories of Venetian merchants in the Renaissance who heard tales of Persian ice storage and attempted to build their own versions back home. The idea of freezing in the Mediterranean's heat was as alluring then as ever. Trade routes also carried ice-related luxury goods, crystallized fruit desserts, frozen sherbets, and elaborate ice molds crafted from metal or wood. You sense the gradual transformation, ice evolving from a rare luxury into an inspiration that shaped food, architecture, and science across continents. And yet, historians still argue about the true origin of some cooling techniques. Were they genuinely Persian innovations or adaptations of older, forgotten methods from other ancient cultures? The mystery endures, adding depth to the story you follow. As stars twinkle overhead, you realize that this journey through ice and desert heat is also a journey through human curiosity, adaptation, and shared knowledge. The elder smiles warmly. The story does not end here. Come, let us see how the modern world inherited these ancient secrets. You brace yourself for the next chapter, where ancient wisdom meets the dawn of refrigeration and the race to keep cool in a warming world. The city lights blur as the elder guides you into a new era, where ice no longer comes only from mountain snows or ancient pits, but is created by machines humming with newfound power. This is the dawn of refrigeration, a world where keeping things cold is no longer a matter of nature alone, but of invention. You trace the lineage of these modern breakthroughs back to Persian innovations, the yakhchāl, the qanats, the ingenious blending of architecture and environment. They laid the groundwork for humanity's ever-evolving battle against heat. Historians still argue about the exact timeline, who truly invented the first mechanical refrigeration system, but it is clear that Persian ingenuity influenced ideas about insulation, cooling airflow, and ice storage that reverberated through centuries. You picture early ice factories in 19th century Europe and America, enormous machines producing blocks of ice that would transform food storage and transportation. Yet the principles echo the desert pits you visited earlier, keeping cold contained, using shade, thick walls, and careful airflow. Your quirky tidbit for this era: early refrigeration pioneers sometimes tested their machines by trying to freeze Persian sherbets and ice creams, those ancient desserts that had journeyed through history, now becoming an industrial product. Some inventors joked that they were trying to replicate the magic of desert nights in a factory. You watch scenes in your mind: people marveling at ice cream trucks in cities, ice cubes clinking in glasses for the first time outside aristocratic palaces, a democratization of cold that transformed everyday life. The elder points to a photograph of a modern Iranian yakhchāl still standing in the desert, a silent witness to centuries of change. These ancient structures, he says, remind us that technology grows from deep roots. Yet the story is not without controversy. Some historians argue that modern refrigeration owes more to industrial Europe than ancient Persia. Others insist that the ancient techniques were the true pioneers, planting seeds of knowledge that only blossomed centuries later. You find yourself caught between timelines, marveling at how human ingenuity builds on itself, layer upon layer. As the night deepens, you feel the cool promise of ice, not as a fleeting luxury, but as a symbol of progress, connection, and the endless human quest to tame nature. The elder's voice drops to a whisper. Now you see how the cold traveled from deserts to factories, from king's courts to street vendors. But our journey is not done. You inhale deeply, ready for the final chapters. Stories of ice cream's rise, cultural transformations, and how ancient Persia's cool legacy still sweetens the world today. You walk through a bustling modern marketplace, the scents of rosewater and spices mingling with the laughter of children chasing after vendors selling icy treats. Ice cream, the sweet legacy of those ancient Persian ice makers, has become a global phenomenon, its roots deeply intertwined with desert ingenuity. The elder explains how Persian sherbets, cooled with crushed ice, evolved into what the world now calls ice cream. These early desserts combined fruit syrups, honey, and thickened milk, ingredients sweet and rich, transformed by the chill of ice into something magical. Historians still argue about the exact pathway from these sherbets to the frozen dairy treats enjoyed worldwide. Some point to Arab influences, others to European adaptations. What is clear is Persia's foundational role. Your quirky tidbit: in ancient Persia, there was a tradition of serving frozen desserts during royal banquets, accompanied by poetry readings and music, almost like a sensory festival. Imagine that, dessert and verses swirling together to create a feast for the soul. You picture a royal court, jewel-toned silks shimmering, servants carrying bowls of delicately flavored ice cream, cooling not just mouths, but tempers during heated political discussions. The elder points to a faded fresco depicting men harvesting ice from mountain caves, their smiles radiant with the knowledge that this cold treasure would soon become a sweet delight in palatial halls. This legacy traveled via the Silk Road, crossing cultures and continents, morphing into gelato in Italy, kulfi in India, and sorbet in France. And the debate continues. Did Persia's cooling arts inspire these treats directly, or did similar ideas arise independently elsewhere? The story is a swirl of influences, a global dessert tapestry stitched together by trade and innovation. You smile, realizing that every spoonful of ice cream you savor carries echoes of desert nights, mountain snows, and ancient Persian hands shaping ice to delight and refresh. The elder laughs softly. Next time you lick a cone, remember you are tasting a history as rich as the flavors. You savor that thought, the sweet chill lingering as you prepare to explore how ice cream became a symbol of cultural identity and social change across time and place. You drift into the lively streets of a modern city where ice cream trucks play familiar tunes and children eagerly line up for their favorite frozen treats. But behind this everyday scene lies a complex cultural tapestry woven through centuries, connecting you back to those ancient Persian ice artisans. The elder explains how ice cream, once a rare luxury reserved for royalty, gradually became a symbol of social change, representing accessibility, joy, and even rebellion in various cultures. In Persia, ice cream was not just a dessert. It was a marker of celebration and status. Over time, as cooling technologies spread, ice cream parlors opened in bustling bazaars and city squares, places where people from all walks of life gathered. Historians still argue about the pace and nature of this social transformation, whether ice cream's democratization was a sudden phenomenon with industrial refrigeration or a gradual cultural shift rooted in centuries of Persian tradition. Your quirky tidbit: in some parts of Persia and later Iran, ice cream vendors developed unique calls and chants to announce their arrival. Early marketing strategies with a melodic twist still echoed today in street cries worldwide. You imagine yourself among a crowd at a lively festival, the air thick with music and laughter, holding a cone dripping with saffron-flavored ice cream, the taste a blend of history, culture, and celebration. This transformation is echoed worldwide. In the United States, ice cream parlors became meeting places during the early 20th century, sites of social interaction and even political discourse. The global journey of ice cream reflects human connection across borders. Yet historians debate the degree to which Persian cultural practices directly influenced these social dynamics versus independent local developments. What remains clear is ice cream's power to bring people together. The elder smiles knowingly. Food is more than sustenance. It is identity, memory, and community. And ice cream is a delicious part of that story. You savor the moment, feeling the cool sweetness as a reminder that beneath the surface of everyday pleasures lies a rich history shaped by human ingenuity, culture, and shared experience. As the night deepens, you prepare for the final chapters, the legacy of ancient Persian ice, its impact on modern science, culture, and the simple joy of keeping cool. You find yourself in a quiet laboratory filled with gleaming glass and humming machines, a modern temple dedicated to the science of cold. The elder's voice guides you through the evolution of refrigeration science, a journey that stretches back to the Persian deserts, where ice and cooling were first mastered. The story turns to the scientific principles underlying ancient Persian methods: insulation, evaporative cooling, and the clever use of subterranean airflows. These natural techniques laid the groundwork for discoveries that centuries later would lead to the invention of mechanical refrigeration. Historians still argue about how much direct influence Persian cooling techniques had on Western scientists, but many acknowledge that Persian innovations inspired early concepts in thermodynamics and heat transfer. Your quirky tidbit: one early European scientist reportedly kept a small replica yakhchāl on his desk, a symbolic nod to the ingenuity of his Persian predecessors, even if some colleagues found it amusing. The elder explains how understanding the physics of ice melting and air cooling eventually led to breakthroughs that made ice widely available year-round, transforming medicine, food preservation, and even space travel. You envision modern refrigerators humming quietly in kitchens worldwide, air conditioners cooling cities, and ice creams melting in cups, all descendants of ancient knowledge born from a desert's need for relief. The debate continues. To what extent was modern refrigeration science a linear progression from ancient techniques, or a revolutionary leap fueled by the industrial age? Scholars probe this question with enthusiasm, recognizing the layered complexity of technological evolution. You marvel at the continuity, how the desert's harshness spurred humans to invent, experiment, and innovate, creating technologies that now shape daily life everywhere. The elder's voice softens. Science is a dialogue across time, each discovery a whisper from those who came before. You feel the quiet power of that dialogue, the invisible thread linking your cool drink to an ancient Persian ice pit, a testament to human curiosity and resilience. With a deep breath, you prepare for the final steps of this journey, where history, culture, and science meet to celebrate the cool legacy that continues to touch every corner of the world. The elder leads you through bustling city streets, where modern ice cream shops, cooling centers, and refrigeration factories hum with life. You realize the ancient Persian legacy is alive, not just in history books, but in everyday moments around the world. You learn how today's ice cream makers still rely on principles first discovered in the deserts, using insulation, controlled airflow, and clever chilling methods to craft perfect textures and flavors. Historians still argue about how much modern food science owes directly to ancient Persian techniques, but the connection is undeniable. Persian sherbets and ice creams laid the foundation for the vast variety of frozen treats we enjoy today. Your quirky tidbit: some avant-garde ice cream chefs experiment with flavors like saffron and rosewater, reviving ancient Persian recipes and blending them with modern culinary artistry, creating edible bridges across millennia. You imagine vibrant ice cream festivals where people gather to celebrate not just taste but tradition, honoring the history behind each scoop. The elder points to the global environmental challenge. Refrigeration and ice production consume enormous energy, posing questions about sustainability. You consider how ancient Persian methods, passive cooling, windcatchers, and earth insulation offer lessons for eco-friendly design today. The debate continues. Can modern science integrate ancient wisdom to build a cooler, greener future? Architects and engineers are exploring this, inspired by the simplicity and elegance of desert technologies. You feel a deep appreciation for how the past and present intertwine, how ancient ice pits and gardens inspire innovations in sustainability and comfort. As the day fades, you understand that the story of Persian ice is not just about cooling, but about harmony between humans and nature, tradition and technology, past and future. The elders' parting words echo softly in every cool breeze and every sweet bite. The desert's secret still whispers. You smile, warmed and refreshed by this timeless connection, ready for the gentle close of your journey. You find yourself drifting into quieter moments, reflecting on the subtle ways ancient Persian ice and cooling techniques have shaped cultural rituals, celebrations, and even daily rhythms. The elder speaks softly about festivals where ice and cold desserts symbolize renewal and refreshment, moments when communities come together to savor both the heat of summer and the chill of ancient traditions. Historians still argue about the origins of some of these customs, but the Persian influence shines through in the use of rosewater, saffron, and the ceremonial serving of frozen treats during Nowruz, the Persian New Year. Your quirky tidbit. In some villages, elders tell tales of mythical creatures who guard hidden ice pits, ensuring that the coolness survives through the scorching desert days. These stories add a magical layer to the practical art of ice preservation. You imagine families sharing stories and sherbets under starry skies, their laughter mixing with the cool night air, a ritual echoing thousands of years of human connection to ice and desert life. The elder's voice grows more contemplative. Ice is more than frozen water. It is memory, comfort, and hope. As you absorb this, you realize that the journey you have taken is not just about technology or history. It is about the human spirit, endlessly creative and resilient. The debate among scholars about the precise origins and influences continues, but you feel the truth in the shared experience of cold delight and cultural meaning. With a gentle smile, the elder invites you to rest, promising the final moments of your journey will soothe and calm, like the cool night breeze after a long day. You feel a deep gratitude for the stories, the science, and the simple joy of ice, a legacy that connects deserts, palaces, and your own quiet moments alike. You settle into a comfortable quiet, the elder's final words fading into the soft hum of the night. The story comes full circle. Ancient deserts, ice pits, cool breezes, and the enduring human desire to create comfort in a harsh world. You reflect on the ingenuity of the Persians, who turned scorching heat into an opportunity for innovation, crafting yakhchāls that defied nature and time. Their legacy flows through centuries, touching everything from royal banquets to street carts, from ice cream cones to modern refrigeration. Historians still argue about many details. What was invention, what adaptation, and what chance discovery? But you see that the true story is one of perseverance, curiosity, and shared knowledge. Your quirky tidbit. Somewhere in a forgotten corner of the world, a secret ice pit may still be hidden beneath the sands, waiting to whisper its chilly secrets to the next curious soul. You breathe slowly, feeling the coolness linger, a gift from deserts long ago, carried through time in sweet treats, in cool shadows, and in the simple, refreshing joy of ice. Now, as the night deepens, you allow yourself to drift gently, warmed by history's embrace, and soothed by the cool comfort of human ingenuity. Now, as your eyelids grow heavy and the quiet of the night wraps around you like a soft blanket, imagine the gentle whisper of a desert breeze cooling your skin, just as it did for those ancient Persians. The world is vast, filled with stories waiting to unfold, but for now, let the calm and the coolness of ice settle within you. Every chill you feel is a reminder of human creativity stretching across time, from the sun-baked sands to the hum of your modern home. Allow yourself to drift slowly, your breath soft and steady, carried on the delicate memory of frozen water preserved in ancient pits, passed down through generations. The story you have traveled tonight is a bridge, a connection between past and present, science and culture, desert and city. As you float toward sleep, know that the legacy of those desert ice makers lives on in every icy sip, every sweet bite, every moment of cool relief. Their quiet ingenuity, their resilience, their joy in creating comfort against the heat, all ripple gently through time. So rest easy, wrapped in the cool embrace of history's gift, the ice that keeps us all connected across deserts, across centuries, across dreams. Sweet dreams.